Hey everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today we're going to be doing something that we've not quite done previously on our channel. We'll be doing an NFL Power Rankings. We are in the middle of Week 13 here. We have Monday night matchups yet to come, Bills and 49ers, and also Steelers and Washington football team, as well as a Tuesday night matchup between the Baltimore Ravens, who are getting Lamar Jackson back, and the Dallas Cowboys. So those games would obviously factor into our power rankings if we knew the result of them. At this point, we don't while we're recording. So we're going to kind of go based off where they're standing at this point, based on how their play has gone. So if something drastic happens tonight, don't obviously freak out in the comments. We just don't quite know yet. And also, before we jump into it, I want to remind all of your viewers here to hit that subscribe button, and also thank our subscribers. We hit 700 subscribers really recently, so we just want to give you guys a big thank you. We appreciate your support, and let us know down in the comments below what other kind of videos you'd like to see us do, as we're trying to diversify our content a little bit. All right, Austin, jumping into number one, I think it's pretty clear who we both have here, and that's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep, I think Pittsburgh's definitely going to be number one. They're undefeated, obviously. They have it going on both sides of the football. I really like what the Pittsburgh Steelers have to offer offensively and defensively. And obviously, it's all clicking right now for the Steelers.
Yeah, definitely. You're looking at the undefeated team. Obviously, they could lose tonight, but operating under the idea that they don't, they'll be the only undefeated team yet in football still. And they've just been really great this year. Going into number two now, probably between just a couple teams, I think the favorite here for number two is the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you agree, Austin?
Yeah, two is going to be the Chiefs. Obviously their offense is arguably the best in the league. Patrick Mahomes he gives you a chance to win a Super Bowl every single year, and for Kansas City, I think it makes a lot of sense to have them at two. There are some other teams that have been playing really well, but I think Kansas City is the number two team in the league.
Yeah, and the Chiefs might even be our favorite for the Super Bowl. That's kind of how I feel. I'm not sure exactly if that's how you feel, Austin. But looking at the Chiefs, I think they're really complete. Their defense has really picked it up again, like they did last year down the back end of the year. And I think that they should be considered the favorite for the title this year, even with how the Steelers have been playing. Looking for number three here, Austin. Is there a specific team that jumps out to you?
Yeah, I think they both come out of the NFC. I think we can look at the Packers and we can look at the New Orleans Saints. I feel pretty comfortable having them 3-4. Quite honestly, I think New Orleans team is just built just slightly better. And obviously Drew Brees will be coming back. New Orleans is my number three team. I don't know how you feel about that one.
Yeah, I agree. Taysom Hill, I was really, really skeptical about their team outlook with Taysom, but they've actually really performed well. Taysom's played well. They've been able to win games without Drew Brees. So I think giving them a slight edge over the Packers, because once Brees is back, you're looking at just a little bit more of a complete roster. Obviously, Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams stack up pretty well with each other, but I think the Saints are a little bit deeper at that receiving number two spot. And also, I think defensively, they're just a little deeper, especially when it comes to linebacker play than the Packers are. Who lost Blake Martinez. But obviously, having the Packers fourth, that's still a really high spot, and they're a really good team. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the Super Bowl representing the NFC either. So going into fifth here, again, this is, it's funny because we kind of get tiers here. Austin, where do you kind of see for five?
So for five, I think it comes down to a couple of teams. I think we have Buffalo here. I think we have the Cleveland Browns here, because the Browns have won 4 straight. So I could see them warranting that number 5 spot as well. Taking a look at the rest of the league, obviously the Colts came off a big win, but the Titans did lose to the Browns. So let's put the Cleveland Browns here. And once again, to preface in this video, we don't think this is the order of the best teams in the league. This is a power ranking video.
Yeah, so obviously it's dependent on recent wins, recent win-loss record, all that. A team like Tampa Bay, who's lost 2 of their last 4 games, isn't going to find themselves as high as if we were just doing an overall roster ranking. Now jumping into, like you had said with the Browns, obviously just came off a pretty decisive win over the Tennessee Titans, another really good team, a team that'll probably find themselves right around this top 10 rank. I think the Buffalo Bills are probably the clear 6 here at this point. Josh Allen's balled out. Stephon Diggs has been a perfect fit there for them, and they're a really fun team to watch too. So I hope that they continue to play well. I really like watching them, even though I'm a Jets fan. They're an in-division rival, but they're fun to watch. At 7 here, Austin, you had mentioned another team, right? Was that – well, okay, so we got the
we have Tennessee in this area. We have Seattle in this area. It's really between those two. I think the Rams also are in consideration for this spot. This is a really tough tier to kind of get into now. Seattle's had their struggles, obviously. So it's obviously Tennessee struggled a little bit last week, but they played Cleveland close. They got it back. It was looking like a blowout. They started coming back. Could have won that game, but for all intents and purposes of a power rankings, I would probably have to have Seattle here.
Okay, right. It does not, there. Oh, okay. I'm having some issues with the,
there you go.
There we go. Got it that time. Yeah, and looking at Seattle too, just on paper, I mean, if you had to bet on a team, it's hard to not bet on a Russell Wilson team week to week. You're looking at one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, a gifted passer, someone who can extend plays with his legs. Honestly, the Seahawks, if they would have probably beat the Giants, we probably could have seen them above the Bills and even above the Browns. Kind of surprising loss yesterday, but nonetheless, they find themselves in the top 7. Into 8 here, Austin. To me, it's between probably the Rams and the Titans here for 8, like you had kind of mentioned too.
I think for the purposes of this, I think that the Rams should go ahead because they did just win this week, obviously, and I think that Sean McVay's had a really nice turnaround that in LA again this year. Tennessee's a really good football team too, phenomenal all around, but it's not a bad rank to be number 9.
Yeah, right. You're looking at Rams 8, Titans 9, and again, one week from now, we could be looking at the Titans jumping them and a couple other teams too with a dominant win. They played a good team. They lost to the Browns. Don't really knock them too hard for that, but the Rams came out and beat a good team in the Cardinals. Now, kind of at 10, we're probably looking between the Buccaneers, Colts, even maybe the Cardinals could be kind of around this area. Austin, where do you think you would want to go here at 10?
I think at number 10, we should have the Indianapolis Colts. Their defense has been phenomenal this year. Obviously, they just have done a nice job with roster construction as a whole. So I like the Colts here at 10. And then I think the Buccaneers could slot in at number 11. They have some things to figure out, but this is a team we have to remember that, especially on paper, could win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to rule out a Tom Brady-led team. Their defense is, very, very good. Obviously, they had a lot of trouble with Kansas City. That's why they're not our favorite, because Kansas City showed that they're superior to Tampa Bay. But let's not forget about Tampa Bay in this. It very well could be possible that they finish top 5 at the end of the season.
Right, and here I want to point out, too, that we're looking at a 9-10 combination of Titans-Colts. That's an actual divisional race that we got to be monitoring at this point a little bit. And then like we saw here with the Buccaneers, they were down pretty much the whole game against the Chiefs, even down 17-0 at one point. They did bring that game back a little bit, something that prevents them from really falling down a little bit further. They hung close down the stretch of that game, and they had a shot down the end. Obviously, Kansas City got a crucial third down conversion. Mahomes made a wonderful throw. But you're looking at Tampa Bay, still at top 11. They're a team, like you had mentioned, I think shouldn't be ruled out. And I think that possibly they could be playing in Tampa Bay for the Super Bowl at some point this year. I would not rule that out either. Going into 12 now, we're kind of probably looking at maybe the Cardinals.
I think the Dolphins.
Oh, Dolphins. Yeah, I was just going to say that.
This is a team that definitely could have been in that 11 spot, even as high as, possibly 8. But I think Miami's rising, and I just want to keep seeing some more consistent play out of them. And I definitely think they have a shot inside the top 10 this year, which is something I was not expecting for me. Brian Flores had really coached up that team last year. Didn't know if that was a flash in the pan or not. He's proving that it's not going to be. I really love his mentality as a coach. I really think that the Dolphins belong here at 12 or higher.
Right, and looking at the Dolphins, obviously you said they were a high riser this year, but I think even past this year, they're going to be a high riser for the next 2 or 3 years, really. They're a team that their trajectory after that Laramie Tunsil deal that they worked out with Bill O'Brien and the Houston Texans has really, cemented them as a team to watch for the next 2 or 3 years. I think that the AFC East has become a lot more competitive with the Buffalo Bills really rising and the Dolphins. Possibly the New York Jets could be getting Trevor Lawrence. We have an NFL mock draft video coming out, so make sure to click the card right here for that. And it's just, the AFC East is going to be kind of fun to watch for the next few years. Also now moving into kind of the middle territory here, we have the Vikings who've been rather hot lately, obviously dropped one to the Cowboys, but outside of that have played fairly well. The Cardinals did lose this week, but they obviously on paper are one of the better teams left on the board. Patriots with a dominant win over the Chargers. Kind of where are you looking here, Austin?
Yeah, so I think that it's unfortunate now we're getting to the tier of some of the good teams that did lose and have lost maybe a couple recently. And I think Arizona really fits the bill here. I think they're going to turn around. They're going to be a playoff team. I think they ultimately will be in that final playoff spot. So for the Arizona Cardinals being at 13, it's not really no disrespect, just unfortunate circumstances here the last couple of weeks. Have lost some games, but not a shot being at 13.
Yeah, and jumping into 14 here now, a team that probably would have been at the start of the year for us, a top 5 team, probably top even 3 team, based off paper, the Baltimore Ravens. Do you see them going at 14? They've kind of been up and down. It's kind of hard to find a real spot for them.
Absolutely. I think they're here. And once again, another team that, if they string together some wins, I think that they could be, once again, a top 10 team. There's going to be a lot of movement. It's really hard. You have kind of your top 3 or top 4 are set, you could say, but there's a lot of movement, from the 5 to even 14 area, because I could see the Ravens going on a run and then, they're really, really dangerous come playoff time.
Yeah, like looking at the start of the year, we would have had them as a better roster than a team like the Packers or the Browns for sure, or even the Bill, like for sure the Bills probably based on roster. Obviously, Lamar Jackson missing a game didn't help them. They've been a little up and down. They've had some close losses to the Steelers, who are our number 1 team. But it would have been really easy to see them being higher if they had executed a little bit better and maybe got a couple more wins. Now we're kind of back into that range again of teams like the Vikings, who've been a little hot lately, started out really cold. The Patriots, even the Raiders, even though they barely escaped the New York Jets. Austin, which direction you want to take this year?
Yeah, I think that this is a close one here, but I'm going to have the Oakland Raiders. They are 7-5. They did beat a very, very good Kansas City team, which was an impressive win for them. I really enjoy, watching the Raiders, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Could definitely generate some more pressure on defense, but overall, they're a good football team. They just didn't have it this last week against the Jets. Thank goodness that they didn't lose. Otherwise, they would have probably tumbled down this list. But I feel comfortable putting the Raiders at 15.
Yeah, we see Vegas going 15. A team that at 7-5 now is right in that thick of the wild card hunt there in the AFC. Probably won't catch up to the Chiefs for that division, but nonetheless, they're competitive. They've definitely taken steps in the right direction since Gruden's got there. Kind of has them on that upward trajectory. Something to look forward to in Vegas. At 16 now, again, the Vikings are still around here. The Patriots again. Kind of difficult to put either of these teams really. I'm not really in love with half the teams in the league, really, based on kind of what we're looking at here. The Texans, it's hard to bet on them even. Austin, what do you kind of think? Also, the Giants, they've strung together a couple wins too.
Yeah, so the Giants are very interesting. You can look at them possibly being an option here, but I am going to go with the New England Patriots considering how dominant of a victory they had. There's still a lot of questions to be had for this team, but for how dominant they won this week, and they've been able to kind of string together some wins, I think that the Patriots are deserving of the 16 slot.
Yeah, they came over a dominant win, like you said, 45-0 over the Chargers. And although the Chargers do have a top 5 pick at this point in the draft, I don't really think the Chargers are that bad of a team, really. Like, you look at it on paper, obviously Eckler was out. They have a rookie quarterback. They're going to have a tough year. They've been a little injury prone on that offensive line. But overall, they're still a talented roster. And a dominant win like that over that talented of a team is still impressive in a lot of ways. So I think that's good that we see them in the top half here of the power rankings. Now, going into the bottom half, however, we've got a couple other teams. Obviously, the 49ers still in this area. A team that was in the Super Bowl last year quite hasn't lived up to that hype. I think the Vikings probably are my front runner here. I don't know if you feel the same way, Austin, with how they played recently. Obviously, a close win over the Jaguars, but we kind of still see them, back in that playoff hunt.
Yeah, really unfortunate. Right before the game, Kendricks went down with what was like a calf injury. He's a big part of what they do on defense. Obviously, they don't have Danielle Hunter. Anthony Barr's hurt. So, there's just a lot of injuries on that defense, really young corners. But for all of the circumstances and issues that they've had so far this season, they've stayed afloat. They are 6-6. They're right in the hunt. If the playoffs started today, they would be in it, right over the Cardinals. So, honestly, I really like the Vikings here at 17. And I think that really warrants it. They've played so well in the last 5 games for the most part.
Yeah, you're looking at, Kirk Cousins has really been a big reason why they've turned it around a little bit. His struggles early in the year. Dalvin Cook's been a pretty, steady rock for them when he's carrying the ball. But now you're seeing Kirk Cousins kind of play more up to that contract, what he's supposed to be doing week to week. And you see the Vikings as a better team because of that. At 18 now, man, the Falcons played pretty close to the Saints this week.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Yeah.
again, this is where it gets really, tight between a lot of these teams. So there's a lot of different ways. I wouldn't even hate going with the Giants here. They beat the Seahawks.
There's one team that I would think maybe could be ahead of them yet, and that's the 49ers, who are getting healthier. They did come off of a win. And honestly, for the Giants, I think they're slotted right behind them if you want to move them over. I think that they've played well enough to warrant them being 19. Obviously, their defense has been so much improved, and I was really impressed how they were able to edge out a win with Colt McCoy at quarterback, beating the Seahawks for that matter. Really like what's going on with Joe Judge and the Giants. I think that they are very worthy of that 19 spot.
Yeah, and Dave Gettleman's really done a good job addressing some of their needs, especially in free agency. He went out and brought in linebacker Blake Martinez, obviously a tackle machine, and he also went out and got a number one corner in James Bradbury, albeit maybe a little bit of an overpay, but definitely big improvements there for the Giants over what they had on the roster. And it's paying dividends as they get into the playoffs right now. That might not be the best thing for them long term, but they've been playing well. And, you don't ever want to be playing poorly, really. Looking at 20 to probably that 22 range. Oh, man.
So I think my take on this is obviously the Bears had a really good start to the year and they fell, but I don't think that warrants them here because they have the most wins of the teams remaining. I think that we can look at the Houston Texans as being the team. They had rattled off a couple of consecutive wins once Bill O'Brien was gone. They just lost this week. But nevertheless, they lost to a very, very good team. And for the Texans, I think that Deshaun Watson gives them a chance in a lot of games that they shouldn't even have business being in. And I think they're going to continue to win some games down the stretch.
Yeah, looking at the Texans, like you said, Deshaun Watson's the best QB out of all these teams available. Yeah, he's going to give you the best chance to win out of all these teams. Obviously, Herbert's played well, but he's just not at Deshaun Watson's caliber yet. And I think that the Texans at 20 makes a lot of sense based on what their QB position looks like. Going into the next area of teams, you're kind of probably looking at, again, the Falcons. I don't know how you feel about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, really.
I think Washington's also a team. They've won 2 straight. They're 4-7. They're second in the division. That's another team we could look at. For sure. Lions also, they're 5-7. They just won again. I'm comfortable putting the Lions here at 21.
Yeah, obviously DeAndre Swift's been banged up. He had a concussion, then he missed a game due to illness. But the Detroit Lions have quite a few pieces that are pretty strong together. Matthew Stafford gives you a shot week to week. He's a competitive quarterback, and obviously with Matt Patricia out, maybe things are going to be different in Detroit. Looking past that, they just came off a win against the Bears. Yeah, like you said, I think the Washington football team, I wouldn't just like putting them here. They've been a little up and down, but at this point, some of these teams are going to be close. A lot of them are going to be up and down. They don't have the talent that the top end teams do, but they've really, I think, exceeded expectations for them. They've played well under Ron Rivera. I think that's something worth noting. And I think long term, they've got a good future, and they're showing kind of what the Dolphins showed last year under Brian Flores. Despite not being super talented, they were, playing competitive, winning some games that people didn't really expect them to. And now you see the Washington football team doing that this year. Going forward, we kind of got the Falcons here, like I had mentioned, with their close loss to the Saints.
I think the Falcons warrant being here. I think they're just really close between the last couple here. You can have that pretty much in any order that you want. But the Falcons have been playing better, obviously, since they got rid of Dan Quinn. Morrison's done a nice job commanding that football team. And honestly, at this point, there's going to be a lot of teams that are very, very close. And looking at the next one, I think teams that are here now, where you could consider the Bears and the Panthers, and probably like the Chargers as well, Cowboys. So I'd say the Panthers are probably here.
Yeah, I feel good about the Panthers going here.
They're getting McCaffrey back. That's something that we have to keep in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And their offensive stability, even outside of McCaffrey's been really strong this year. I think they're the strongest offensive team that we had left at this point. Defensively, they got some question marks. They're young. But they're also a team that's going to be trending in the right direction. I think Matt Rule's a great hire. Hopefully, they're able to keep Joe Brady. He's probably going to be a guy that gets a lot of offensive or a lot of head coach consideration. With a lot of the head coach vacancies, we're going to have teams like the New York Jets, probably, possibly the Jacksonville Jaguars, and a few others are going to probably look at Joe Brady as a possibility. So hopefully for them, they're able to hold on to him for at least another year, kind of build something up there. Going into 25, this is probably, like you had said here, kind of like the Broncos Chargers range.
I think the Broncos would be fine to put here as well. Obviously, I think they go over to the Bears because the Bears have just had an insane tumble. Obviously, they can't figure out the quarterback spot. They've had a lot of issues offensively, but I think after that you can put the Bears right behind them. Just considering that they're a decent football team. They are, and they just got to work out some of the kinks. They're another team that could move significantly higher, depending on how the rest of the season goes and if they can figure out some of those issues. And even after that, here now with the Bears, we have the Eagles territory. We got Chargers, Cowboys, and I feel like Dallas should be able to figure it out. I really do. They're a team that obviously they had DiNucci starting. They had a lot of in and out pieces but they did lose Martin for the entire year now.
They did,
for that. So Eagles or Cowboys for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to put the Chargers based on what we just saw this week. I'm probably going to put the Eagles here. I think Hurts is going to be maybe a bright spot, give them a little bit of a spark. I'm not a guy who is super high on Carson Wentz, but I'm not as low on him as other people seem to be right now either. So I don't really think the Hurts thing makes too much of a difference other than maybe just a spark plug for a little bit. I think, yeah, probably the Cowboys next with Dalton. Just looking at it like, I'm not high on the Bengals. Their backup QB's hurt now too after this week. I believe he got maybe he's in concussion protocol. I don't remember for sure. But either way, I'm not high on that. I think probably the Chargers go at 30 or 29 rather, and then probably how do you want to rank this? Because the Jaguars played competitively, the Jets played competitively, the Bengals did not play competitively.
I think on a week-to-week basis, I think the Jaguars have a better chance of winning a football game than the Bengals do.
That's how I feel as well.
I think at the end of the year, the Jaguars will have a worse record, but I just think in terms of how they're playing right now, I think the Jaguars at week-to-week basis. I mean, they almost won that football game. They very well could have won that football game, had some mistakes, but yeah, and then you look at Bengals. Obviously, if Burrow was playing, they would be higher. And then the Jets, we obviously know why the Jets are here.
Right, yeah. The Jets have been brutal. With a healthy Burrow, we're probably looking at, the Bengals probably being up right around where the Bears find themselves in this one, right around that range. They've been really competitive this year, even in games that they've lost, comes down to a few Bullock misses, a few other situational defensive mishaps. Burrow gives him a chance. Obviously, his injury is really devastating. We hope he recovers fully and comes back better than ever because it's fun to watch Joe Burrow play. And the Bengals were, going to be a team that maybe come back to relevance pretty quickly with him. But at this point, that's kind of how our power rankings are looking at for Week 13. Obviously, again, just a reminder, this is before the Monday night and Tuesday night games. So we don't have the full picture. A team could maybe slide way up or fall way down a little bit. So just keep that in mind when you are commenting, and make sure to hit that subscribe button like we had said earlier. We really appreciate the support, and we're looking to keep growing and keep giving you guys the best content that we possibly can. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.